Recently, Jeff Bezos announced that he would be going to space with his brother on July 20th using New Shepard. This would not only make him the first billionaire to go to space, but more importantly, the first owner to use his own rocket. It should also be mentioned that this will be New Shepard's first crewed flight into space. Considering this, Jeff's spaceflight is not a joyride by any means. No, it's a statement piece specifically designed to destroy skeptics. For years, people have talked down on Blue Origin, discounting their achievements as mere copies and laughing at their slow pace. But as Jeff Bezos steps down from Amazon to fully focus on Blue Origin, the trajectory of Blue Origin is about to radically change. So, here's the story of Blue Origin and how Jeff Bezos will ravage the haters. Before we jump into the video, let's address the elephant in the room, which is of course SpaceX. There's no question that SpaceX is way ahead of Blue Origin, and that's unlikely to change. But that's okay. Blue Origin does not need to be the best space company out there to be a leader in the industry. This video is more about how Blue Origin will disprove the notion that the company is a joke and how Blue Origin will grow to be the number 2 space company in the world. With that being said, let's take a look at the roots of Blue Origin. Blue Origin was originally founded on September 8, 2000, which is ironically almost 2 years before SpaceX. At the time, Jeff Bezos was actually in a pretty rough position financially, as this was during the midst of the dot-com crash. Amazon stock had already crumbled from $113 to just $45, but the fall was far from over. By September of 2001, Amazon stock would fall to under $6 per share, which wiped out 95% of Jeff's wealth. Fortunately, Amazon stock has since recovered to well over $3,000 per share today, but that rise was by no means guaranteed at the time. Clearly, Jeff ended up starting Blue Origin during uncertain times, but something that was absolutely certain though was his love for space. You see, Jeff had been dreaming of pushing forward the space industry since his high school years. In fact, Jeff wrapped up his 1982 high school valedictorian speech with quote, "Space, the final frontier, meet me there." Given this passion, Jeff would invest the money he did have into rocket engine development. No one really knows the specifics as to what they were working on, as Blue Origin was extremely secretive with their plans. But we did get a couple of hints here and there. In 2003, for instance, Blue Origin would start to buy large portions of land in Texas, presumably for testing purposes. And in 2004, Jeff Bezos would actually have a lunch meeting with Elon Musk to discuss their space companies and the future of the industry. According to Elon Musk, Jeff was constantly proposing ideas that SpaceX had already tried and discarded. Apparently, he advised Jeff to trash these ideas, but Jeff would go ahead and try them anyway to find out for himself. Jeff wasn't in any rush to build up the company as fast as possible. By this point, Amazon stock had recovered quite a bit, so he was in no rush to win commercial contracts or launch a rocket. He strongly believed that slow and steady was the key to victory. That's how he built up Amazon, and that's how he was going to build up Blue Origin. In fact, their mission statement proclaims, "We are not in a race. We will go about this step by step because it is an illusion that skipping steps gets us there faster. Slow is smooth, and smooth is fast." Evidently, Jeff did not care about speed, but what he did care about was experimentation and innovation. One of his earliest ideas was to vertically land New Shepard, which dates back to 2005. A common misconception is that vertically landing rockets/boosters was Elon's idea and that Jeff copied it. But in reality, this idea is not original to either of these guys. The idea to vertically land rockets is a classic within the space industry and dates back to the 1930s. For instance, in the 1959 movie The Sky Calls, we can see a rocket landing that's basically identical to that of Falcon 9 and New Shepard. So, this is not a new idea by any means. SpaceX and Blue Origin simply made this fan fiction a reality. Anyway, moving forward, Jeff would do an interview in 2008 where he revealed his plans for New Shepard. His goal was to conduct an uncrewed launch in 2011 and a crewed launch in 2012. Clearly, these dates did not pan out, but that's basically the case with every space plan. In April of 2015, Blue Origin would finally conduct their first uncrewed test flight of the New Shepard. Unfortunately, the booster would crash during the landing. However, the capsule would land safely. Though it took forever for Blue Origin to conduct their first launch, there's definitely some truth to Jeff's philosophy of slow and steady wins the race. Since that first launch, Blue Origin has conducted 14 launches of the New Shepard, all of which were 100% successful. And this is why I am so confident that Jeff will indeed fly to space this summer. The July 20th date may not hold up because of logistical, technical, and/or weather-related delays. But these factors shouldn't push back the flight more than a couple of days or weeks in the worst case. Completing this flight will bring Blue Origin more interest than ever before. As we discussed at the beginning, Jeff would be the first owner to ride in his own rocket, and the fact that he's willing to be part of the first crew speaks volumes about how much he trusts the product. With Virgin Galactic, for instance, Richard Branson has been teasing a ride on Spaceship Two for years. Richard, however, was never willing to be the first to test his planes, and throughout their history, a pilot was even killed during a test flight. So let's not forget that rockets and space are extremely dangerous, and things have gone wrong. As a result, Jeff completing a flight on New Shepard would give potential customers a level of confidence that is unparalleled within the industry. Now, I know a lot of you guys will point to Falcon 9's reliability, and that is absolutely true. But New Shepard and Falcon 9 aren't really comparable. Falcon 9 is an orbital rocket that costs tens of millions per seat. New Shepard is a suborbital rocket with a ticket cost of about $250,000 per seat. I know that the first New Shepard ticket was sold for $28 million, but that was more of a fundraising effort, and the buyer paid a massive premium to be the first civilian to ride New Shepard. With that being said, Blue Origin will dominate the sub-$1 million space tourism industry over the next decade, which will be the vast majority of the space tourism market itself. Blue Origin's only competitor within this market is Virgin Galactic, who doesn't have nearly as strong of a track record. So, Jeff's spaceflight will solidify the company's future in space tourism and be the first step in disproving the haters. New Shepard is just a suborbital rocket though. To solidify their position as a space leader, they also need to have a strong orbital rocket. And that's where New Glenn comes into play. Blue Origin has been developing New Glenn since 2012, and they currently plan to launch the behemoth in the fourth quarter of 2022. Now, that date may not come true, but New Glenn development truly is in the home stretch. By far the hardest part of developing a rocket is the rocket engines. New Glenn is supposed to use a BE-4 engine, but New Glenn is not the only rocket using this engine. United Launch Alliance actually contracted Blue Origin to build BE-4 engines for their upcoming Vulcan Centaur rocket, which is still expected to launch at the end of this year. This means that the engines are almost ready to go. Assuming that the Vulcan Centaur launches at the end of this year or early 2022, New Glenn can't be that far behind. Even if they don't hit the Q4 2022 date, 2023 and 2024 would be highly likely launch dates. Let's just say that we see New Glenn take flight by 2025. With a payload capacity of 45 metric tons, New Glenn will be the second largest fully reusable rocket ever built, only beaten out by Starship. If New Glenn beats Starship to a successful orbital flight, New Glenn would temporarily be the largest fully reusable rocket. This of course comes along with a plethora of commercial contracts and interest. Blue Origin has already attracted several commercial partners, and I'm sure they'll make quite a bit of money as a launch provider. But what's really interesting with New Glenn though is lunar missions. Since the very beginning, returning to the moon has been one of Jeff Bezos' primary intentions. They've got the Blue Moon and the Human Landing System, and though Blue Origin didn't win the Artemis contract, they aren't giving up on the moon by any means. If we say that Blue Origin completes a crewed spaceflight using New Glenn by 2030, it's quite likely that Blue Origin will get humans to the moon in the early to mid-2030s. Again, this will be nearly a decade after SpaceX, but that doesn't take away from the fact that Blue Origin could very well reach the moon before any other country. This means that Blue Origin will be one of 3 organizations that have the ability to put humans on the moon. And I'm confident that Blue Origin will be the one to leverage this ability. Here's the thing, SpaceX's main goal is to make humans a multiplanetary species by settling Mars. So the moon will not be their primary focus. Meanwhile, NASA's main focus is research and development. So they don't really care about the moon beyond building a research base and conducting in-depth research. This gives Blue Origin the perfect opportunity to be the ones that commercialize the moon and near-Earth space throughout the 2030s. This includes space manufacturing, space energy production, space tourism, space hotels, and so on and so forth. Jeff's primary thesis has always been, we have to go to space to save Earth. Though Jeff thinks it's important to research other planets like Mars, he thinks the primary purpose of space is to serve people on Earth. Whether that be reducing pollution on Earth by manufacturing in space, or providing people on Earth with an exotic travel destination. Considering this, over the long term, I believe that SpaceX will be the colonists, government space agencies will be the scientists, and Blue Origin will be the commercialists. And this role starts as soon as Jeff Bezos successfully completes his spaceflight, destroying the haters and opening up the gates for commercialization. Do you guys think that Blue Origin is overly scoffed at? Comment that down below. Also, drop a like if you would like to see Blue Origin disprove the skeptics. And of course, consider joining our Discord community to suggest future video ideas, and consider subscribing to see more questions logically answered. But until then, I'm Ari, and I'll see you guys on the next one.